People will argue having a routine when you travel versus not having a routine. The pros and cons are this: if you have a routine, aka a strict schedule, well then you know you're gonna wake up at this time, you're gonna go to bed at this time, you're doing these activities at this time, and that can be very useful. If you have absolutely no routine, this is more like that wanderlust, like go with the flow, wherever the wind, like Jesus take the wheel, like wherever the wind takes me kind of mentality. And both have their pros and cons. I stand a little bit more in between. I lean a little bit more towards structure. So I like to have a strict routine, but there are always going to be these moments in travel where an opportunity presents itself, and you must take that opportunity. For example, a few days ago, maybe I think about a week ago, we were in South Dakota. We had met with a Native American individual who was a part of one of the tribes down there in the Black Hills of South Dakota. So that individual wanted to do an interview on a day where we were supposed to be traveling. So I postponed the travel to do the interview with the individual because that was an opportunity that presented itself and I wanted to take that opportunity. So there's always going to be these different opportunities which are like portals that you're going to want to jump through and get the value from. So be a little bit more flexible with your schedule than you would be when you're back home in your city, whether it's LA or New York. You're sitting in LA or New York, you're just sitting in your studio apartment. You can be very structured because there's less variables that are thrown at you. When you travel, there's more variables, so you have to introduce more flexibility, but not just flexibility into your routine. It's about also introducing buffer. You need to have buffer because things are inevitably going to take longer than you think they're going to take. There are going to be mistakes that are made, and you have to go back and redo things or blah blah blah. And if you didn't have account for buffer, if you set too tight of time block parameters on your scheduler, well, then you're gonna miss out on days and days and days of opportunity because inevitably things are gonna come up in the way. Someone's gonna get sick, some equipment's gonna get messed up or forgotten. You gotta go fix something. You gotta be on a phone call, unexpected phone call. You need to implement buffer. It seems like you're taking one step forward, two step backwards when you implement buffer. You're like, oh, this is gonna slow down my travel. No, you need to implement buffer. And the rule for buffer is this: whatever time you think you're gonna need, multiply it by 1.5. So if I think I'm gonna need 3 hours for something, I give myself 4.5 hours to do it. Inevitably, things will always pop up, especially when you're filming content. If you're an individual filming content, things are always gonna pop up. Some other things you wanna think about with travel are you're gonna be going to a new place. This is gonna awaken your senses in a new way. You're taking on new stimulus, meeting new types of people, new culture, new different types of businesses, different regulations on those businesses. As an entrepreneur, you always want to have an idea on what's happening in the global market. You always want to have an idea on what's happening in different smaller markets. So, we're in here in Gardner, Montana. You want to be looking at the buildings, talking to the people about their industries, what industry drives the town. Talk to the businessmen and businesswomen of that town. Try to see if you can get some kind of business ROI from being in that town itself. Whether that could be filming certain content, that could be studying the market in there to see if there's any deals. That can be going out and looking at deals. There's a variety of reasons as to why you want to get a business ROI on every place you travel. Integrate that into your routine. Have the time block where you dedicate it towards getting a business ROI out of that time. The next thing you want to think about is how you're going to manage your energy on the road. I said before that you're going to have a lot of different variables that are thrown at you. These different variables are going to challenge your mind. It's when you're traveling, it's like you're problem solving constantly. When are we going to do this? What time do we have to do this by? What are we going to eat? And you're accounting for many different variables. This can really, really drain your brain and it can drain your willpower. So you have to account for a recovery. Now, when you travel, especially when you're with people, time flies when you're having fun. You get into a flow state and you just keep going and going and going and going. You feel like you never need a rest day. But I really do account for some rest days. So I'll take every Sunday and I'll really deliberately try to take it easy on a Sunday. Now, I remember last year, we're going and going and going and hustling and hustling and hustling. And I got sick. My buddy got sick. if we got really, really sick, another buddy got really, really sick, and this happens when you don't respect your body. So you got to take the time to respect your body. Part of that is doing research on the place you're going to be going to. Will there be a sauna? Will there be access for me to do massage? And normally when I'm back home in LA, my recovery days look like deep tissue massage, sauna, and cold plunge. Deep tissue massage, sauna, and cold plunge. But if I don't have that, then I must do a makeshift version of that on the road. And what do I do? So and you got to be thinking about how you can do this as well. Well, if you don't have sauna, maybe you can just lay out in the sun if it's hot. You know, not here in Montana, but if you're in a hotter climate. If you have if you could do research to see if there's a spa, you know, that's a spa that's in your city that you're going to be traveling to, or in a small town that you're going to be traveling to. And the smaller the town you go to, the less likely there's going to be the amenities that you need. So if there's not going to be a spa, there's not going to be a massage place, what can you do instead of that? You can do, you know, as I said, lay out in the sun. You can do, you can literally find a river, as long as it's not polluted. This is the Yellowstone River, and dunk yourself into the Yellowstone River. You don't need to go to some fancy spa and pay $200. Dunk yourself into a river. It's a more primitive experience. You'll get your cold thermogenesis. It's way better than cryotherapy, trust me. So you can do that. If you don't have access to massage, bring one of those lacrosse balls with you, a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, and get out all the knots in your body. You know, roll on the floor. Bring a foam roller with you. Get out all the knots in your body. Learn how to do self massage, and then you could always just load up a 30-minute video on YouTube of yoga, and just do 30 minutes of yoga. 30 minutes of yoga has a big impact on your recovery, and you know, you're getting breath work in, you know, getting more oxygen into your system. You're stretching out the body, mobility, flexibility, especially as very important. If you're going to be doing a road trip, you're sitting in this position on the road trip because you're just sitting down. Your hip flexors get tight, your body gets tight, your posture can get bad. So you want to account for all of this. And when your posture gets bad, you get more injury prone. When your hips get tight, you get more injury prone. And you start developing these little nagging things. And this happens when you travel. You're going to notice, like, all of a sudden you're getting tendonitis all of a sudden. All of a sudden your knees are hurting. This is because you just didn't simply take 30 minutes to do some yoga or some massage or some self-care. So that time is very, very important. Even if it feels like you're in a new location, you just want to get out there and see things, you must take the time to make it sustainable. Because it's better to take half a day once a week to do, you know, the things that I talked about, the recovery protocols, than to stay sick for 4 or 5 days or a week and miss all of it. So you do things in a way where it's sustainable to where your energy can manage it. Now, the flip side of this is that there are always going to be certain opportunities that pop up when you travel to where you're going to have to miss sleep to do the opportunity, or you're going to have to skip your recovery day. And if that's absolutely necessary, then take the opportunity. YOLO, you'll only live once. Take the opportunity. But as far as a general rule of thumb, you should be thinking sustainably of how you can recover and then work. Recover and then work while you travel. Try to make it as sustainable as you can make. You want to be also thinking about doing some deep work, preparation, and research on the place you're going to be traveling to. So you want to be thinking about what hotels are there. Do I have rewards and a point system for those hotels? Take every bonus you can with the hotels. You know, if you're going to be traveling a lot, if you want to integrate the lifestyle of travel, you know, squeeze it for everything it's worth. Get on every hotel's rewards programs and become one of the platinum members if you can. Do all that. It really, really helps, and you'll get a lot of perks with it. You know, where I travel, we get free snacks and free this and free that. It's because I'm on the rewards programs. So take advantage of that. Next thing you want to do is you want to research where you're going to be traveling. You know, we're out here in Montana, the cabin we're in, they literally give us bear spray because there's grizzly bears that are all around. Now they're not as active right now because they're hibernating. It's spring, but they haven't not all of them are coming out of their dens yet. But you want to study what animals are in that area, what wild animals. You know, if you don't understand that, something as simple as that, you're driving through a certain area and the speed limit is 65 miles an hour. We're coming through in Gardner, Montana. There are herds of elk, mule deer, antelope, and bison that will migrate and stampede across the road, and it sounds like thunder coming across the road. And if you're just sticking to the speed limit and you haven't done your research on the place, you will literally smash into a herd of bison or smash into a moose and get yourself killed. You want to study what natural disasters are in the area. You know, me and my buddy drove through the border of Texas and Oklahoma. There was a tornado off in the distance, and that was causing a thunderstorm like we had never seen in our lives. And the roads were technically closed according to the GPS, but we drove through it anyway. But we also enjoy that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily, you know, if you want to protect yourself against those things, then you should research it. Research the location you're going to be going to. Know the main highlights of what it is you want to see. Don't just go to the location and do nothing. I remember being on a cruise when I was 15 years old. My parents took me on a cruise, and we were with all my cousins and everybody, and we stopped off in Mexico. And my parents had luckily done research. My parents are big travelers. They'd done research on we're going to be in Cozumel, Mexico. We're going to go see the Mayan ruins. We're going to go see whatever, the waves, the ocean, this, that, and the other thing. And my cousins were on the cruise ship watching television and eating ice cream. And now my uncles and aunts and cousins all rationalized it. They said, no, we're here to relax. We're here to, relax, blah, 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 eat ice cream. We don't come on a cruise ship to go see Mexico. We don't care about seeing Mexico. And I bought into that philosophy for a second. So I remember telling my parents, please, 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 I just want to stay back with my cousins, because I thought it was the cool thing to do, to just stay back and chill. Like, oh, it's not as cool to go sightseeing. Boy, was I wrong. I went with my parents. We saw poison dart frogs. We saw interesting animals, turtles crossing the road, Mayan ruins. We climbed the Mayan ruins, all this kind of stuff. I ate coconut with chili and lime on it on the beach. I was negotiating with different people in Mexico. Like, I learned a little bit of Spanish at the time. It was a very memorable experience rather than eating ice cream and watching television. But I guarantee you, if my cousins and my uncles and my aunts had just done a little bit of research on what was actually in Cozumel, Mexico, they wouldn't have stayed in the cruise just wasting their time and being lazy. So when you don't know what's in the area, you're going to default to your default settings. Traveling is all about breaking out of your default settings. It's about breaking out of your default patterns and your default way of thinking about things, because you're forced with new stimulus. You can't remain in the same autopilot zone. Now, the autopilot zone of you being back home is good for certain things, right? It's good for deep work. It's good for building a skill set. If you're an athlete and every day is a little bit different because you're building new skills, there's differentiation. It doesn't feel like Groundhog's Day, but oftentimes your regular work can feel like Groundhog's Day. And when you go into travel mode, the brain is forced to awaken. You have no other choice, but the brain is forced to awaken. It's forced to engage, and the DNA is forced to engage. It's like you're conquering new lands in your mind, and it's a very primitive experience by a certain way of looking at it. So, and without being aware of exactly what you're going to be doing in the new location, you will come out to a place like Montana and sit at home and still scroll through Instagram all day, or you'll be in Montana and you'll still scroll on Facebook, or you'll still go on YouTube, or you'll get back in the same negative patterns that you're in back at your hometown, because you haven't properly decided, I'm going to see this today. I'm going to see that today. Like tomorrow, we're planning on going to Lamar Valley, a little bit deeper into Yellowstone. And this is the valley where the wolves kill the bison. But we plan to go there tomorrow. We know how long it's going to take to get there. And I guarantee you, if we just came out here and we didn't know that there's Lamar Valley, we didn't know that the north entrance of Yellowstone has all the animals, we didn't know where the geysers were, we didn't know where the geysers with the hot water spewing up. If we don't know what to see here, we will literally sit in that cabin derping around. It is so, so, so common. And that is one of the things you really want to avoid, is derping, wasting time and derping. And time gets wasted in so many different ways. You have all the time in the world to be back home at your city, at your studio apartment, and go eat at the fancy restaurants. Don't come out to a place like this and waste time 4 or 5 hours, or let's say 3 or 4 hours, depending on who you are. Let's say 3 hours eating at a fancy restaurant out here. This is not the place to eat a fancy restaurant. If you come out to a location where it's wild, go experience the wild. If you're in the city, go experience the baller things to do in the city. But don't try to bring don't try to bring your city slicker mentality into the wild. If you're out in the wild, you don't need to bring your wild mentality out into the city. It's go do the thing that the place is meant to actually go experience what's actually meant to be experienced in the location that you're going to. That is extremely, extremely important. And trust me, the derping will come in many, many different forms. It comes in the form of you defaulting to your default state of staring at your screen, getting into the same negative patterns that you're in back into your regular city mentally, or getting into your default bad habits. Like you carry those with you into the new place. But another thing that begins to happen is if you're with a bunch of people, if there's not a clear leader saying we're doing this today, I guarantee the day just passes you by. It will just pass you by. And I remember being on the road with a lot of my buddies who we film content with in different cities when we're running seminars and stuff like this. And it's like one person's taking a shower for a long time. Then another person's taking a shower for a long time. Then we wind up going late to the things that we're supposed to go late to because one person wasn't there to say, you have to be ready by this time. You must be ready by this time. You must have this equipment ready by this time. And then we get out by this time. And if the directions aren't clear and there isn't a clear time, everybody just rationalizes going late because fundamentally everybody's lazy and they're carrying their same Groundhog's Day mentality from their city that they live in back into the new travel location. They're trying to bring their default patterns into the new location. And so much time can get wasted in that. So you want to think about travel through the lens of the Pareto principle. You do your research on a place before you get there on obviously the animals and what you have to see, what the safety hazards are, the culture of the place, the business of the place, whatever it is that you're going there for. But when it comes to actually getting out into the place and seeing things, make sure that that actually happens. Go to see the best shit in that place rather than defaulting to your normal patterns of trying to bring the city life into the wild or whatever it is. So when I would travel, I would way overpack my suitcase, and I thought I was going to use all these different things, when in reality, I used the few, not the many. So really consider what it is that you're actually putting into your bag. But there are some things that I do believe are essential because you're just not going to have access to the best quality food on the road. So you do want to have good supplements. You're not you think you're gonna use all these different clothes, but you're going to use the essential clothes that you need for going out in the city, or for if you're out in the cold, the essential jackets that you're going to need. You're not going to need all of them that in your closet. So just try to boil it down to the essential of what it is that you need. When it comes to food, one of the big things you're going to notice with food is that it's hard to get good, healthy food on the road. Even if you find a quote-unquote healthy restaurant, they might be using canola oils, seed oils, things that are going to be inflammatory to your system. Things that are seemingly healthy on the surface are not as healthy. Even if you modify your order, I just want to go with the paleo thing, it might not be as healthy as you think. And everyone's diet is different, and I understand that. So this is just my take on things. You can find your own version of this. First thing I noticed is that when you're eating out, especially you're an entrepreneur, you're eating at all these fancy restaurants. If you're a new entrepreneur, eating $100, $200 a night restaurants, that does add up. And especially if you don't have the money for that, that's like $3K or $6K a month if you're going to travel for that long. But even just eating out in general, you're going to notice when you travel, your brain will go into a brain fog state. You eat some cheesy thing with a bunch of bad oils on it and whatever. You feel the brain fog, you feel the tiredness. And when you're feeling tired like that, the results you're trying to get out of travel go down because you're not as effective with the work you're trying to do when you travel. Or if you're traveling for fun and you're sightseeing or whatever, and you're trying to have an adventure, you can't quite let the adventure land because your brain doesn't have the right fuel. Like if you felt the way you felt back at home when you're eating healthy and you were magically transported out to the travel adventure, you would be able to take in that adventure. But because you're eating unhealthy on the road, you're a little bit more spaced out. So the key is to prevent this spaced outness from happening so that you can actually process the adventures that you're happening and fully engage with it and be effective with it. And the key is, one of the big keys is supplementation, and one of the big keys is just trying to find a more sustainable way to eat. Now, another thing with the restaurants is that not only will they serve you, you might not get the best food with them, but you also will have a situation where it just takes time. It takes 2 or 3 hours a day, right? And that can just really mess up your time. So the first thing I'll show you is that with our fridge here, now we're in an Airbnb, so we'll go to the local market here, and we're filled with like local wild huckleberries. We got bison, we got elk, we got grass-fed steaks, wild blueberries. We got white-tailed deer, grass-fed steak, wild salmon, kimchi, raw milk cheese, hummus, locally brewed kombucha, turmeric shots, free-range eggs, local mushroom, and all that kind of stuff. So that's awesome if you're in one spot for a while. We've been in this spot for a while, so we can do that. But if you're going to be changing spot to spot to spot to spot, a lot of these amazing foods are going to go bad, right? So what do? So you find a simple solution. Wild Planet makes a lot of great stuff. Wild sardines. Now, depends on what your diet is. You can get chicken in a can, wild sardines in a can, wild tuna in a can, wild salmon in a can. Is it the best tasting? No, it's a little bland. So bring some spice with you. Is it, as good as having, smoked Nova Scotia wild salmon? No, it doesn't taste nearly as good at that as that. But it's an option. And depending on whether you have carbs or not, I bring packs of brown rice with me. I do carbs. Not everybody does. Chickpeas and beans. And then if I can't have the salads, like you see some salads in there for greens, then I will do, where is it? The green juice. Where did the green juice go? Oh, thanks. So if I can't do salads like you see in the fridge, then I will do greens powder. So I powder it up. So if you're still trying to get in the amount of protein you're trying to get in a certain amount of protein, those cans don't have the most protein in the world, right? You're going to get 20 to 30 grams for each of those cans of protein. You're trying to get let's say a gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you are. Well, then at the end of the day, you might have as many cans as you want, and then you can supplement. This is not an endorsement of Liver King or this company, but yeah, I like the organ meat proteins, and there's 20 grams in here per scoop. So if I get in 100 grams of protein, I could take 2-3 scoops of that and pretty much be good for the amount of protein that I need by the end of the day. And then as far as micronutrients, I think supplementation on the road is super important. I like to keep it convenient and put everything into a pill box, and I'll show you some of the stuff that we have over here. So, bitter melon extract, so this regulates blood sugar, probiotics, organ meats, mushrooms, valerian root for sleep, glucosamine, chondroitin, all the goddamn dragon herbs you can ever think of, lion's mane mushroom, black magic alchemy, reishi, that is an endorsement. But that's, and then I have some like very interesting spagyrics, Tibetan rhodiola from a private dealer. So some very interesting supplements, but the supplementation, you'll notice a difference. If you're not getting all the whole foods that you can, you supplement. Now, when it comes to berries and stuff like that, antioxidants, you're not always gonna have a freezer, right? In some of these hotels that you're in, you're not gonna have access to wild mountain-grown huckleberries or wild blueberries. So this is wild aronia berry powder, so it's also high in antioxidants. And I also keep wild blueberry powder on me as well. So, for antioxidants and all that stuff will help your energy tremendously. You get the right micronutrients, you're getting the right sleep as well. So sleep's another part of it. If we're in a location for a long time, then you might want to create a dark room. Whether you want a dark room or not, there's pros and cons to that. It's not all pros like people think, because then you get used to that dark room, and as soon as there's a little bit of light, you're up. But crafting a dark room, you can use painter's tape so that it doesn't ruin the walls of the hotel you're in. Get big black garbage bags and then cover every last little bit of light, and you'll be hibernating in there like a goddamn bear. So I keep a stainless steel water bottle with me at all times. I have another water bottle which is called a Life Straw. It's somewhere in there, we can show you later. A Life Straw. Now the Life Straw has a straw sticking out of it, and you can literally put any water into the Life Straw and it filters it pure clean. I literally use this out in the wild. and it's super helpful, but I bring this with me everywhere I go as well. So I'll bring this and I'll put some electrolytes in there. Especially on the road, you're traveling, you're tired. I like Element. I've also used BioSteel. I've also used Kinton. I've used Noon, and I've used Liquid IV occasionally as well. So those are some of the electrolytes that I've used. But yeah, as far as healthy snacks on the road, I bring grass-fed jerkies, little ready-to-go protein shakes, but like a good quality one. Like if you like whey, Jocko Willink's Mulks are pretty good. They're grass-fed whey, sweetened with monk fruit. I bring some plant protein ready-to-go shakes as well, so you can get protein while you're traveling as well. So all that stuff added up make travel very, very easy, and you really don't get cranky on the road anymore. You feel kind of your stomach's full, you're feeling good, and you're feeling high energy, and travel just gets a hell of a lot more sustainable and a hell of a lot more efficient. I can remember travel before I would not do any of this stuff, and I'm running around to unhealthy restaurant after unhealthy restaurant, wasting time. It's leading me into a downward spiral that I don't really want to be in. So this makes things smooth. This makes things efficient. This makes things easy, and yeah. But another thing you got to do is you got to be thinking about what kind of workout you want to be doing as well. So that's where we're going to be moving to next. So when traveling, a lot of people's workout habits obviously get just flushed down the toilet, but you don't want to let that happen to you. What I do is a couple of different things. One is I always bring a few different pieces of equipment with me, which I'm going to show you. But I also get a cheap $35 a month membership at LA Fitness. Now, LA Fitness has places that are all over the United States and a lot of big cities. So whenever I'm in a big city, especially doing a seminar, I can hit up LA Fitness. I get the full weight room. But you can't always bring the full weight room with you, which is why I have these pieces of equipment behind me. But if I do go to LA Fitness with that membership that I have, that's $35 a month, I can also bring 3 people with me. So it makes things very, very efficient. But if I'm on the road going into nature, if I'm on a road trip, if I didn't just fly to a city, then I have to adapt a little bit. So my version of bringing the whole dumbbell rack with me from LA Fitness is just me bringing a single kettlebell. So you can do snatches with this. I could do squats with this. I could do RDLs. I could do Turkish get-ups. So a lot of different functional movements can be done with the kettlebell. Very, very, very good. I can't do deep tissue massage, or if I don't have space for the big foam roller, I'll bring these mini foam rollers with me. You can, they're very intense on your muscular knots. You can bring bands with you, jump rope for cardio. You can just go run outside. And one of the biggest pieces of equipment I have, which is my main one, is gymnastics rings. If I just had to pick one piece of equipment out of all of these, I pick these. And these make you like a goddamn monkey. I mean, they work like the little muscles and they all the stabilizing muscles in your shoulders. You just hook them up to a tree. But when it comes to these, they're very, very good. They're not expensive. Let's say you don't have this, you're a true brokey and you're on the road. Go just find a tree and do some goddamn pull-ups and chin-ups, all right? So when there's a will, there's a way. You can figure out how to work out when you're on the road. It's about just carving out the time for it in your travel schedule and just making it a must, not a should. So a couple more things you want to think about are, make sure you bring your cat with you. No, but a couple other things. This is the Sid Mobile. We use this on road trips all the time. Just a little all-wheel drive Subaru. I've driven this through so many crazy weather conditions and through, crazy situations in Colorado, through blizzards, through storms. This car has been through it all, off-roading, everything. Now, it's a very reliable car. I could also get a Land Rover, but Land Rover is a little bit more about show that it is about actual performance or reliability on the off-road. But there's other options for good road trip cars out there. You know, Jeeps, Land Rovers, Brabus Adventure, G-Wagons. There's all kinds, whether you want to go more luxury or you want to go more reliable and practical. Many different options for you. But what we keep in the Sid Mobile is we keep a survival kit. We keep Band-Aids, Neosporin, flashlight, you know, flare, you know, a few other things as well. But you want to build your own personal survival kit, whatever is important for you. You keep it in the car, especially on the adventures that we go on. You never know when you're gonna need that shit. I've been stuck on the side of the roads for hours and hours and hours before. I've done it. I remember one trip in Colorado was to be a 4-hour drive. It turned into a 12-hour drive because the blizzards were so hard. It pushed me to the side of the road. I was stuck on the side of the road. So you want to be thinking about how to prevent those situations from happening. You can even put bear spray into the kit as well. The reason you want to pack just the essential gear too is because you can easily, especially on road trip adventures, overpack a car like this. You want to make sure, you know, it's like playing a game of Tetris to get all the suitcases to line up. So make sure that you're aware of everything that you're bringing to where it's you have enough space in your car and everything's going to work beforehand. We plan these things out before we even take the trip. And then you want to also make sure that your insurances, licenses, and everything's up to date. Especially you're driving across state lines, you got firearms in the car, whatever. You got to check your laws. Make sure everything's good in that department. Make sure that your registration's up to date. These are all things you want to make sure you get done before you go. Service the car. Make sure that your tires in alignment. You know, all that kind of stuff. Especially the type of adventures that we do. Super, super critical. You know, we always keep a life straw on us. This is what I was talking about, life straw. This will literally filter through really, really dirty water and make it clean. It's one of the most useful things I've ever seen. Keep some spare toilet paper. You know, for the beige individuals, keep some sunscreen. Bear spray, very important, out in Montana, always. We've seen grizzlies out here. Know how to use your bear spray. You gotta be able to quickly undo it, press down, spray it in the bear's face if he's coming after you. But obviously your travels might be different than mine. So if you don't have bear spray, use the similar equivalent to whatever might be coming after you. Keep going.